Welcome. This is the devlog for our third game. This is the first devlog. We've been in hiding for a while, right?
As far as developing games go, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, not actually in hiding. Yeah, we've been working under the scenes on this for about 7 months, which sounds insane. But we're gonna give you a little taste of what we've done so far.
Yeah, it kind of feels like we haven't done anything on it.
Yeah.
But then we were looking through our files and we were looking through our folders and files of all the stuff we've been working on and our design document and the code and everything, and we realized that there is actually a lot going on under the hood and behind the scenes, and we want to discuss all that stuff with you guys today. Here.
Did we introduce ourselves?
Oh yeah, we have to be professional.
Sure,
today.
sure. Okay, I'm Ed.
I'm Joe.
That's it. Okay, done.
All right, there we go. Ed's the programmer and the musician, and Joe's the designer. We're both the game designers, and Joe's the artist.
So you might be wondering, what's this game called? The game is called Game 3.
So far, yeah, we don't have an official title for it. We're just calling it Game 3.
Yeah,
for the code name.
And part of the reason that we've been in development this long without showing anything is because, our biggest mistake on our last 2 games was scope creep. And not planning well, So, as Joe reminded me just before we started, we wanted to make sure that we overplanned instead of underplanned, so that everything in the end would work out a little more smoothly. And so far, I think we've done that.
Yeah, we're definitely overplanning, but I think it's better for us to overshoot the planning this time, and maybe next time we'll hit the sweet spot. But I think it's better overall. Between overplanning and underplanning, you want to overplan.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be better, and I think that's going to work out better for us, even though it's taking us a really long time to actually get started on the game in the vertical slice, as they call it.
Especially considering that this is going to be the framework for our next game. What was I not supposed to say that?
No, you can say it.
Okay.
Yeah, we can say it. We can say it.
Okay. The plan is to do another Metroidvania after this. This is supposed to be sort of a test run, just to get the systems in place and make sure that we're comfortable with it. And our next game is, another Metroidvania, probably very similar. So that's part of it,
Yeah.
So I've been doing all the coding, trying to get the systems in place, trying to keep them as optimized as possible and universal.
Yeah,
so,
we have some pretty wild ideas for a larger Metroidvania style game that would take a lot of effort and a lot of time, and we don't want to dive right into that on our first try. This game's already getting a little bit involved, a little more than expected, but not enough that I'm still confident that we're going to be able to finish this game within a reasonable amount of time.
Turn that off. The debug panel. You don't need to see that.
So I said it was the artist. This I didn't actually do this. This is. Well, that's obviously a stretched image of Brock from Pokemon down there, and a brick wall, stock brick wall in the back. So
there's a lot of under the hood stuff here that you should not be seeing in the final version.
It just automatically started.
Yeah, it does that.
Oh, okay.
Is that not? Yeah. Is that not what you expected?
No, it's not what I expected. But okay, that's cool.
I will get that out of the way.
It works.
So this is a prototype area. This is not in the final game. Oh, you want to drop down there behind the column. You're supposed to come up from the other side, so you would know that, but you don't know that because you've never played this before.
Yeah.
Joe's on the controller, and he hasn't played most of this.
I haven't played it for a long time. I actually haven't. Yeah. So Ed's gonna probably have to walk me through some of this.
Right. So I constructed this little area to represent, definitely not represent the tutorial. You're going back to the beginning of the game.
Is that what we want to do? Do we want to go back to
the
beginning?
No, this is the starting room. So you want to go there because there's nothing here. I don't know what happens if you fall down there. You might die.
Okay. I mean, there's not too much really to see besides the control and some platforms to jump around, right?
Yeah. And we can show some of the enemies if you want.
There's a little. Yeah, I mean, I shouldn't understate it, but there is.
So yeah,
we got a lot to cover.
So our goal with the tutorial in the game, not this obviously, but when we actually release the game, is to give you all your abilities basically up front. The important ones. So like the double jump. The wall jump, stuff like that.
There's double jump. Here's a wall jump. Actually, the wall jump, we're planning on using that as a key, right?
Right.
We weren't going to give that right away, but the abilities in the game are going to be. Our goal is to make them easier to get than in a normal Metroidvania.
But at least the double jump we should be getting almost right away.
Yeah, you'll be getting that within half an hour, probably within 5 or 10 minutes.
Because that was we both have this problem with Hollow Knight where you get the double jump at the end of the game.
Yeah. I actually never even got the double jump in Hollow Knight.
Oh, yeah. I think it was optional and also hidden. So here's one of our save points.
What do you press up?
You can save if you want, or you can just leave. Don't click loadout or else the game will break.
Okay. Oh, you press X to save. Okay, cool.
There you go. He's got a little nice message for you. So you've successfully saved your game.
I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah. And
Should we do the downward slam?
sure, you can do that. Yeah,
Okay,
go for
We've
it.
got a downward slam. So there's a downward slam. These green blocks, you can smash through those. Obviously, this is all placeholder art. Even the character animation, I actually made this little character animation here, but this is not going to be the final design for the main character, nor is this animation going to even be used in the game, most likely, for anything. But it was a practice. Oh, God.
Yeah, I
We got a
should
fatal
I
error.
should have told you not to go in there. Actually, I kind of had a feeling that wasn't going to work. All right, so there was something that I wasn't prepared for you to see, and should have mentioned but failed to. So we're just reloading back where we were. This is just a loop where you pick up one of your power-ups, and as you can see, when you fall in this area, you actually can't leave until you get the ability that is hidden there. You know.
Yeah.
For example, like the wall jump or whatever.
Oh, we should also note this is not level design.
Of course not.
These level design, this is just to practice the control. We don't actually think that this is
No,
a level design.
Don't touch that.
None of this is going to be in the final game. So yeah, this is just a loop here.
This is mostly for testing the action, like the running and the jumping.
Yeah,
You know. So
just
like
testing the mechanics out.
that's where there's tons of walls and you know, I'm just gonna make sure everything works right. And stuff obviously still needs a lot of tweaking, but I think it's in a decent place.
Should we save again?
No.
Oh no, is it going to make a bug?
It's fine. I'll take care of it.
Okay.
We also didn't talk about those things that are following you,
Yes, we have not.
which is actually a huge part of this development cycle that we spent a long time on this. So originally,
we should definitely talk about it.
yeah, originally when we were prototyping this game, I just, you know, like the best thing to do in game development is to come up with an idea and just play it and see how it feels. Like that's more important than tens of thousands of pages of designing, is playing a game and seeing if it feels good. So one of the first things I did was I created like a Mega Man-ish system where you have these long-range projectiles, but I wanted them to have hit scan, so they have hit scan. In other words, as soon as you throw them, they immediately go to infinity, sort of. They immediately go to the other side of the room and hit anything or everything that's in their path, right?
Right.
So your accuracy is kind of guaranteed. And then, you know, I just ended up with having 3 of them, and so they sort of cycle out. So if you throw one, you load up the second one. It's sort of like a barrel of 3 bullets, if you will.
Right, and or like in the old Mega Man games, right? You can launch 3 of them, and then you have to wait to launch again. So if you do it from far away, yeah, it gates your ability to spam the button as fast as you possibly can to launch.
That's
so
kind of
you
the
can
purpose.
launch like 3 quickly, and then
So
the timing's not exact yet, but
you do want to be
Yeah,
but
you
you do
get
want to
the
be a little
idea.
careful with it. Yeah, so
Yeah.
you can't just spam it. Like, remember when we played Callie's Caves? That was the thing. You could just spam the button,
Right.
like literally as fast. You probably 60 times per second if you could mash
Yeah.
that fast. And I think it feels better to have a gate, because if you don't have a gate, then you feel bad if you're not always
right,
shooting at
if you're not
60
doing
FPS.
max DPS,
Yeah.
you feel like you're missing out on DPS if you're not, shooting 60 times per second or
Right.
30, however many frames the game runs at. If you're not shooting that many times per second, you feel like you're not getting maximum DPS. And people can only mash a button maybe, I don't know, 12 times a second. I don't know what the actual number is, but probably the average person can mash a button, maybe less than that. That sounds a little high.
Yeah.
But if you're really good at it, maybe.
So these weapons here are now sort of nondescript circles.
And
can actually go up top if you
we
want.
should talk about the lore behind it, though. Originally, we were going to have them be knives.
Yeah,
Because throwing a knife, right, that's kind of an obvious thing for a weapon like this, throwing a knife and then it comes back to you. So they're kind of like magic knives that would follow behind the character, like they do here.
Yeah.
So that's why they kind of animate like this. And we decided not to do that
for a lot of
great reasons.
detail.
But we played the game Toho Luna Nights.
Yeah.
And we thought people might think we were copying Toho Luna Nights, right? Because that's a game where you have a number of knives and the character throws them basically similarly to this, where you carry 3 knives and you I think you get more than 3, but yeah, we played it on the channel, so you can see that game. It's a really, really cool Metroidvania game. If you haven't watched our LP of it or played the game, it's worth checking out. I think I'm fucking stuck.
Oh, I have a fix for that.
Oh, nice.
Okay, hold on.
All right, go ahead.
There we go.
Nice. Good job.
Sorry. Oh yeah, there's more stuff to show.
Yeah.
Damn.
Well, let's finish talking about
Sure.
the knives.
Yeah.
So yeah, instead of knives, we had an idea that I'm gonna stop playing for a second here. We had an idea that the game was gonna take place. Oh, actually, we have to get into the.
Let's just say that knives didn't work. That's all. And the
not-
reason for it now is a story reason. How about that? Or scenario setting reason. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
And
Well,
we can just leave it at that if you want.
the main character is an angel,
Right.
and the game takes place in a sky world.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So This is a funny story though. So what we decided to do was we were thinking knives was kind of a hack idea that was going to be kind of boring, and it had already been done by Toholuna Knights for many reasons. We decided not to do knives, and then Ed said to me one day, he said, "Why don't the main character's an angel? Why don't we just make the projectile halos?" And I looked at him with the I gave him a screw face. I looked at him in a way I was so mad
because it was so obvious.
I was so mad, but I wasn't mad at Ed. I was mad at myself. For not coming up with the idea. It's such a great idea. I mean, I'm going to say I shouldn't be bragging.
Well, it just makes sense.
But it just makes sense,
it
right?
It makes more sense with the setting and the character ideas. So this is a cutscene trigger. There are a couple of these scattered around. There's a lot to talk about. Sorry, were you done with that topic?
Yeah, I think we're good.
I'm ready to jump into something.
Oh, yeah, this happens.
Yeah, I don't think he can actually kill you, so I wouldn't worry about it. Oh, yeah, that's our dash, by the way. We have a dash.
Yeah, I haven't been doing it because I wanted to do it when we talked about it, but when we were going to start talking about it. But
surprise!
Yeah, surprise! You need to use it to get through this part.
So, the point of this room is to demonstrate and test the camera system. I spent a lot of time trying to get that exactly the way I wanted it. I don't know what to.
Oh God, he just followed you to the next room.
Yeah, and you might be wondering how could he possibly follow you into the next room?
Well, it doesn't kill you. That's good.
Yeah, the answer actually is that this entire map is one room in GameMaker. Which is, sorry to break the illusion for you there, but that's the case. So I have to be very diligent about keeping things active and destroying things when you switch rooms, but it's far, far easier to manage areas in the game when they're all just one single room in GameMaker. So that's why he followed you. But of course, he's probably not going to be in the game, or if he is, in some completely different form.
So yeah, we're planning on having the camera pan out frequently, like you saw in that previous room.
One of my biggest
We thought that would be cool for the scale of it and to give a more of a sense of grandiosity, I guess.
Yeah.
To it.
Yeah.
Rather than always being at the same, having the camera be always at the same zoom level.
And that's not something exactly brand new. You know, a lot of games have been doing that. Like I remember Death's Gambit did it really well.
Even like in the late 90s. Yeah. I can think of some games that did that, some 2D games.
So, you know, it's nothing new, but it's just the way that we want our camera to work. Here is a prototype of a cutscene. Oh, that's a treasure chest. You can actually shoot that and get money out of it.
Oh, you shoot it to get money out of it. I forget about that.
So currently, the money just kind of falls on the floor. You have to go pick it up. I don't like that. I think we're probably going to... Well, we'll see. But... Oh, yeah, you started a cutscene by walking into it. So I also added a cutscene system, which is incredibly... It took a long time. It took a very long time. But, you know, currently it's seamless with the gameplay. And it's done in Excel spreadsheet or Google spreadsheets or whatever. And every action is written down there, and then it's imported and turned into a grid.
I mean, I was impressed with the dialogue system alone that we have so far that Ed did. He spent a lot of time working on the dialogue system and getting us all kinds of different effects. And yeah, dialogue systems are pretty complicated. It's more complicated than I would have ever thought.
So if you have used GameMaker, I use Friendly Cosmonaut's dialogue system as a base, and then I spent about a month tweaking it and making sure it worked for us. And as far as I know, we're pretty much there. You know, it's got the effects that you would want, like the rainbow, the waving text, the shaky text.
Yeah, well, you can see that right there.
The big letters. And this, yeah. So it's kind of a combination of the text system that she has and also the cutscene system that she has. But I wanted to do it a simpler way. So this is a bird. And that is the end of the cutscene.
Yeah, the bird might make it into the final cut. I like the character. Ed came up with the bird character, and I like birds in general. So
you're broken.
Oh yeah, we are broken.
Interesting.
We're stuck in this this animation here. Oh yeah, it's not doing the run animation anymore.
All right.
I guess we'll do a save.
Right. Actually, you know, let's.
I like these little. Oh.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh,
go ahead.
We're still recording.
Yeah.
I like these little these little sentences that you wrote whenever you save.
I do too. I like those. I think stuff like that gives flavor. All right. We'll be right back. Okay, so this is a room. This is a very, very large room. I was experimenting with really large rooms.
Oh, can you not grab after a dash jump off the wall?
Might just be a tight jump. Yeah, there's still obviously some things to tweak. With the... This is all done in a finite state machine. This is a tough jump, huh?
Yeah.
It's all done... There you go.
There we go. Yeah, the control's a little bit clunky so far, but it's a little more complex than any game that we've programmed so far.
And it's serviceable, which is the main point. You know, I haven't spent a lot of time trying to polish or refine the controls because that's not the focus.
That's not the focus right now.
But this is a very large room. I'm a big fan of having the very large rooms and very large cameras, and this is sort of the exit of the tutorial. So as you proceed to the right here, you can see there's all these particles, and this is more of an experiment with particles as well. And also room effects. So for example, the screen is slowly becoming white. So certain rooms will have certain effects like this. There are a bunch of others. I've worked on like rain. Oh, it might work. It might work. It might also crash.
Yep.
Oh, no. No.
Oh, that's what's supposed to happen?
Yeah, this is the second area of the game. So we just switched rooms.
Okay, cool.
But you know, it's doing a lot of heavy lifting. But also, funny enough, this is a copy of the first area. So there's nothing to see here.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep running around.
You can see this room.
Checking it out.
We should probably take the time to pull up the map and the progression system as well. So
Okay.
this is the pause menu. This is the mini map.
The back button works. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So this is the mini map I also coded completely from scratch, which also took a lot of time. And it is... I don't know why we didn't do it the way that I'm about to explain. The way that, like, for example, it would be done in art, where, you know, all the rooms were a separate piece of art, and we just display the pieces of art. I kind of did it a dumb way.
That's how I did it when I made Underworld. I was working on a prototype game called Underworld that I spent a decent amount of time on. We did a devlog on it, actually. Probably, I don't know, how long ago was that? Probably 4 years ago now? It was before we ever made and released our first two games. But, yeah, that's how I did it in that. That's how I programmed the map system. My map system was incredibly simplistic, but it was definitely serviceable. And so yeah, that's what Ed was suggesting that we do. Also, while we're on the topic, real quick, this game is essentially the evolution of that game of Underworld. We're finally going back to making the kind of game that we originally wanted to make, which was a Metroidvania. So that's that game that I was working on all those years ago. This is essentially the evolution of that. Underworld, the concept that it was going to be back then, is never going to be made. It's never going to happen.
Well,
this is essentially it. Yeah, the ideas changed. So instead of making a game about an underground world or a Metroidvania that takes place in a castle, because there's so many games that do that.
Yeah.
We wanted to do something that was a little bit different and something that's almost the opposite of an underground world. We wanted to make a sky world for our game, and we have some pretty interesting ideas, I think, for different kinds of areas and different zones for the game that I think are different than any other game has done. Anyway, I think go ahead with the map system. I just wanted to do that while we were on the topic.
Yeah, so I mean, there's not much to say other than what you can see. I mean, you can pan it. I don't know if zoom is implemented. I think maybe if the right analog stick. Try that. No, probably not.
Is it on the keyboard?
I don't think so. I don't think there's any zoom yet. But this is all done at runtime. So like these blue rectangles are just rounded rectangles that you draw with GameMaker. And then I overlay them with a rounded rectangle that's white. And those, you can see the connections. Those are just blue little sprites that are placed on top of the big ones. So like this is all done at runtime. There's no player icon right now, but there will be eventually. And you know, like we want to have stuff like map completion and to be able to find secrets and stuff. So this map will be able to update. It's just a map, dude. It's not that exciting actually. I shouldn't have oversold it, but I just wanted to give you a look at that.
Looking good so far, man.
Yeah. But the other more meaty thing that I'm excited about is if you want to do progression now, or do you want to save that?
Just what were the other things? We talked about that. Before we even did a lot of the nuts and bolts of the programming and the drawing, we had a design document, a rather large design document where we were writing down story ideas, enemy ideas, area ideas.
You might be stuck here.
Scenarios.
There you go.
Progression system ideas. We had, I mean, it
is massive.
Yeah, quite a large Google document that we were working on for a long time. So, and that's a lot of the unseen work that went into it. And besides that,
I mean, you come up with 100 ideas, 99 of them are bad. You come up with you're left with the one good one.
I mean, yeah, that's essentially what we did.
Yeah.
Is we came up with a ton of ideas for all different aspects of the game, and I mean, I guess not much really else needs to be said about that. So yeah, progression. Did you want to talk about that? Did you want to take control? To look at that.
Sure. I'll just use keyboard and mouse.
Okay.
That's normally what I would use. But you know, there is some basic controller support for now. So yeah. So we had a couple different ideas for the progression system. Initially, we had that knife system, and I did start out wondering if it would work if we had, you know, each knife has a separate ability. So like we had a knife that does, like what were they? There was like one that healed you. There was one that did a spread shot. There was one that like poisoned, like very very traditional things. But that got kind of complex, especially for our scope, and I think it's the right move not to do all that.
And each knife that you equipped, we were gonna have roughly 8 knives in the game, and you would get them from bosses and from treasure chests around the world. And each knife would grant all of your knives the ability that it had, and we thought that would be a little bit confusing. And you could make combinations. So there would be one that would reduce the cooldown of how long it takes for the knife to return to you. We're calling them knives, but now they're halos. But before they were knives, so we keep calling them knives. But and there would be one that would just up your damage, like a basic one like that. There would be a poison one, like Ed said, and one that does a dot or damage on exit, because the knife would stick into the enemy, right? And then it would do a little bit of extra damage when it returns to you. So there's tons of different effects, and it was going to enchant each knife with that effect. So we thought that would be a little bit confusing.
Yeah.
To make it made it a little bit too complicated, I think. And they would all look different, right? The knives that were following you would change the actual sprite.
Yeah. I think that whole system was just a little bit more complex than it had to be. And there's not much benefit to it, like those are all very traditional things. Like just having a knife that deals dot damage. I think we can do better than that. I think we can make something a little more interesting than that. So hopefully we have. And I can pull it up right here.
Yeah, and we're not trying to make a really long and involved game with a crafting system or a lot of progression systems. So what we wanted to do with our progression system was do something a little bit more unique.
Yeah, something that is special for the scope of the game that we've created. Right. And to be honest, I don't even know if we're gonna have character levels yet. I'm a big sucker for that stuff. Like in the Metroidvania games, when you level up, feels great, man. But I don't know. We'll have to see.
Yeah, Ed and I, I think we both have a similar design philosophy in that we don't want to make the player get too powerful from the beginning of the game to the end of the game. We don't want the progression to be so vast that the early areas become so easy that you just can't possibly die. Like a lot, like Final Fantasy games do that, and a lot of JRPGs, and a lot of games do that. And MMOs do that. But like a game like just an easy example, Dark Souls. Obviously, everybody always goes back to that. But a game like that, or even Hollow Knight to some extent, is kind of like that. Maybe not as much as a Dark Souls game, but where the early areas you can still get taken by surprise and get killed. Yeah. Like your character doesn't get that much more powerful, maybe 2 to 3 times as powerful. That's kind of what we're aiming for in this one. And the game, again, is not going to be as long as any of those games mentioned. So I think that'll be more than doable. Yeah. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, so this was one of the things that we came up with in brainstorming, but we decided to shelve it for a while. But then as we were kind of like getting off the whole like the knife system, I kept coming back to this because for some reason this was really interesting to me. And so the idea here is you would find these Tetris-like blocks. You'd like buy them or find them out in the world or get them from bosses or something. And you have this grid over here, right? And so this is your progression system. So, like for example, you would find this one that gives you maybe like 30 health, right? And so you'd have to slot it in somewhere. So you slot it in there, and you get whatever benefit it confers. Well, in this case, it's +5 movement speed, but gives you whatever benefit it has. And then you would have this one. I don't know what this one does. This one gives you 5% cooldown, so something like that. But you can imagine that as your grid sort of gets filled in. Also, just ignore this debug text. Sorry. You would imagine that as your grid gets filled in, you can no longer place blocks in certain places. So, like, I can't put it here, but I can force it there, right? So like now I really can't place much else here. Like this is a full grid. So I think part of the excitement for me at least is being able to create combinations, like develop combinations that are meant to work well together, but also lock you out of other things. So, like if there's a block that like I don't know, like maybe there is a block that deals poison damage, but it's in a certain configuration that makes it so you can't use it with something else, So I don't know. I kind of like this system, and I think it makes for more interesting stuff to collect, and we can also create a greater variety of things because this is all they are. Like these are at runtime. You can see like the 000, OXO. That's all we have to do to create these blocks.
It's been a lot of time. Figuring out how to do this.
I tried to
making it streamlined.
Yeah, I really tried to streamline it. And in fact, you can see up here, like this is O, and then OXO. So like this is all I have to type, and this block gets created as a sprite. So in the future, if we ever want to add more of these or change them in any way, it's a cinch. So
another thing you don't see here, but we could make essentially, or potentially we could make for blocks that you would find towards the end of the game, we could make them really OP. Like a block that either gives you 50% extra HP or double HP, just as an easy example, but it would be like a 4x4 block or something really big that would take up most of your grid to get one really big effect.
Yeah.
So you could do a balancing act between having a lot of smaller effects, so you have more, you have more in your bag of tricks.
Right.
For that's the best way I can think of to say it. Or you can just focus on one particular stat. Like if it's your first time through the game and you're dying a lot, maybe you just want to focus on hit points. Or maybe a mix between hit points and power. But if you've played the game a lot and you're doing a speed run, maybe you would want to increase your cooldown time and your speed. Or you might want to do a mix of everything. So it's customizable in that way, and you can focus on one kind of stat. And I'm sure we're gonna we'll probably come up with some more interesting stats, but those are the easiest ones to go on hit points and power and things like that.
For sure. I think this is gonna give a little bit of new depth to that whole traditional system where you increase attack power and you increase movement speed and you increase defense or whatever. I think there's gonna be more to it. And also that should be noted that of course all this is completely prototyping and not at all going to be in the final version of the game. Like for example, we don't even really understand our grid size yet. Like this is a 5x5, but maybe we'll start at a 2x2 or a 3x3 or 4x4. Like we don't know what the max size is, and like we don't know how big the block should be. That's all going to have to be balanced.
Yeah, tentatively, I think we're probably going to start as a 2x2 or a 3x3 grid, and then move up to a 5x5.
Yeah.
So that would be essentially 1, 2, 3, 4 maybe levels, between 3 and 4 levels probably. And you would get those at key points in the game, maybe beating certain bosses or getting to a certain point in the story, something like that.
Yeah. So that's that for now. I think I've said everything. Yeah. So I mean, there's room here for infinitely many of these. There are only 6, but
there's a ton of design space I think in this system.
Hey, there's also a fixed shot, which we didn't talk about, but
you can hold down a button and freeze your character in place and attack. That's pretty common in side-scrolling shooters, like Contra games, Gunstar Heroes, games like that. So we added that, and obviously Mega Man X is an influence in the game. And another game that was an influence in the control so far was Nier Automata.
Oh yeah.
The dashing. When you dash, when you complete a dash and release the dash button, but you're still holding the direction that you're running, you can keep running. And you can change direction, and you'll keep your speed. And it works very similarly to how dashing works in Nier Automata. I found that to be really fun to control, so I wanted to try that in a 2D game. And I mean, a lot of Nier Automata is a 2D game. So that's that was an influence there. We wanted to combine control styles that were fun and gave the player a lot of freedom to move as quickly or as slowly as they wanted to, and without complicating things too much for us and for the player, because the game's not going to be that long. We don't want to have a control scheme that's too complicated, so we're going to do something that might be a little bit more familiar to people, but also be really fun.
So something else we've been working on is we've got a bunch of shader effects that I hope to use somewhere in the game. If you're drunk, maybe this is a good one to use. I don't know. But I spent a lot of time just learning how to use shaders. It's a very, very complex. It's a completely different language that you use inside of Game Maker. So there are a couple of these are used. Like if you jump into that water, for example, this is what you would see. This kind of underwater shader with the God rays. So there's that. And there's one more important thing, which I think, Joe, you will appreciate. In fact, I'm going to let you play this. So why don't you run into the next room to the right.
Okay.
And you can see we have a death flag right there. Death trigger. So if you touch that, you're going to die instantly.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Should I do it?
How could this happen to me? I've made my mistakes. Got nowhere to run.
It was really important for me that you see this.
Well played, Ed.
Because we're on a floating island, you jumped off. How could you do that?
Yeah.
And, it's very tragic. How could this happen to you?
This is one of Ed's favorite bits, is to make this the ending of the game over screen. How could this happen to me?
It's so self-pitying. I love it. So that was all I wanted to show.
I loved it.
Good. Obviously, it won't make the final cut because we don't have that kind of budget.
Yeah, we can't pay for that song.
No. We can parody it, though. Maybe we will. So that's about it on the actual game maker side for now, I believe.
So on to the next part. Okay, so we're real quick going to go over some concept art stuff. I've done a lot of the art. Most recently, I've been doing most of the art on paper, and I didn't scan most of it. So what we have to show is some old stuff that I did on the computer. So there's not really too much to say about any of this stuff. What we're seeing here, this is very, very early. This was like very, very beginning of the project. So there's not really a whole lot to show as far as that goes. And this is just a rough design of what the world could look like. And then I did different kinds of coloring schemes. I was thinking about doing monotone schemes for each area and keeping the color palette as limited as possible for each area. So maybe even just sticking to one color, like blue, for instance. This would just be like a blue. This one's more like blue to green, and keeping all the colors really flat in each area. I'm not sure if that's going to work. I'm going to have to do more style tests on that. I'm going to be doing some mock screenshots coming up, so that's going to be, we'll probably figure out if it's going to work or not when we do that. So yeah, I just wanted to show that. And you can see some, yeah, and some of these, the lines are different colors. Some of it, the lines are just black. Here's another potential area. We're probably not going to actually have a cave area, but I was just doing this for test. This was probably 6 months ago. This is one of the first things that we did when we started the game. So yeah, it's really, really rough. Obviously, this is not finished art at all, but then here's like a forest, bamboo forest kind of thing, and there's some old racket enemies just for testing. So we were thinking of having like, for instance, this would be the green area, right? So everything's like a tone of green or maybe a little bit yellow, but the characters would always be the same color,
right?
In
So
each
they
area.
would
So they
stand
would
out.
always pop out, and that was kind of my idea for the color scheme. And then we could have any kind of bullets, anything that's dangerous, be red and white, right? So that will always stand out as well. So it would be really. It would be obviously it would be stylized heavily, and it would help to really to make the gameplay pop. Like, for instance, recently I've been watching people play Mario Maker levels.
Yeah.
And I kind of actually like the old 8-bit and 16-bit, like the Super Mario World and the old Mario, the NES Mario game graphics better than the ones that are in the new Super Mario Brothers style, like the 3D style, because they
easier.
read better.
Yeah, they do.
So I wanted to make a game that reads really, really well and try to focus on that, because I think GameSoup read most of the games in GameSoup read pretty well. You had to read them really fast, and it helped me to learn how to do that a lot better, because you had to understand what was going on in those games within half a second, because the games were thrown at you so quickly, like WarioWare. And Inferno Racket, I think I completely dropped the ball. Like, I had no idea what I was doing, designing art for games. So yeah, I think we can do better. So this is very, very early rough stuff. I'm gonna do some better artwork than this coming up, but I just wanted to show that real quick. And also we're gonna talk about the map. So let's do that. So yeah, for the map, same thing. I've been doing a lot of, I did a ton of drawings on paper, just copy paper. It's kind of disorganized, but I spent a lot of time doing that. And I did some in, I use Paint Tool SAI, which is what we're looking at here. And I've done a ton of these maps, just really rough maps of the world of the game. And this right here is, like, in here would be, we can see the mouse, right? Yeah. So in here would be kind of the sky zone, as we're calling it. So this is the starting area. This is kind of the tutorial right in here. Then this would be the central area. It's like more of the basic area where you see mostly clouds. And then we would have a different area here. This one, I don't want to get too much into world detail because that'll take too long. But we have basically 5 different areas. This area would be like a greenish blue zone. This zone might be purple. This zone would probably be red. And this might be blue. And this might be like red, or not red, I guess, maybe orange or something. So this is what these would be like floating buildings. These outlined rectangles, these really rough rectangles here. And then when we do this, we can see what the actual in-game map might look like. Now this is not what the rooms will look like at all. This is just a concept. I did I don't know, probably 4 or 5 of these before I came to this one. So it took, yeah, a lot of roughs to get to where we are now. And this is still not really, I wouldn't say it's, yeah, I wouldn't say it's well designed yet, but I think it roughs out what the map could potentially look like. This gives us a rough idea of the areas and the progression of how you would move through it. So this would be like the tutorial zone where I'm pointing here. Once you get into here, this says mini boss right here, so that would be like kind of the tutorial boss. Then we're getting into, this would be the middle, the hub, like the very center of the game. And we wanted to do more of, a lot of Metroidvanias kind of are more linear than
they appear.
Yeah, than they appear. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. So we wanted to make it a little bit more open world. So we want you to have access to everything except for this. This is the final area at the top here. We wanted the player to have access to a lot of the world from the start. Now you are going to need to get some abilities and maybe just some basic keys to get to certain side areas or to progress to a certain boss. Maybe there is going to be some, because I mean you have to get access somehow to make sure the player has to explore everywhere in order to complete the game. So yeah, this is just roughly what the map would look like. I think that's about all I have to... No, well, there's one other thing we could say about it. Each area is going to be focusing on a certain skill in the game, including the boss of the area. So the Sky Zone area would be focusing mostly on probably double jump. You're going to get that early on, and there's going to be a lot of vertical platforming and just platforming in general. So double jump is going to be important in this area. In this area up here, I'm not going to describe what kind of area it is, but you can see that you would enter it from the top, and this would be a downward slam area. So you would need to get the downward slam in order to progress deep into this area here. And this area on the right would be the wall jump area. So you would get the wall jump somewhere else, and you would come in here. So you can see you enter this area from down here, and it's mostly a vertical area. So you would need to have the wall jump to get past a certain point, maybe here or here. In this area. And then the bottom area, it's very horizontal, so this would be testing your ability to dash and navigate long jumps areas, long jumps over pits and things like that. And then the top area would test everything, basically. So yeah, that's kind of our map design, very rough map design so far. And there's one more thing we want to show. So I've done a few concept arts that are more finished than the stuff that we've been showing so far, just to get an idea of what the world may look like. This is obviously not final, and this wouldn't be like what the actual in-game graphics look like, but we're trying to get an idea of what the world would look like, because we didn't do a whole lot of that for Inferno Racket or even GameSoup. GameSoup it wasn't as necessary, but for Inferno Racket, I wish that I had done some mock screenshots at least, and probably some concept art, just to get a feel for what the game was going to be about and what it was going to look like as far as art style, color, and things like that go. So yeah, I wanted to spend more time on that stuff for this game. So yeah, this is actually, I've just been working on this week. So this is an idea of what the middle zone might look like, probably in the background, and you might be able to access like an area like this building up here. Obviously it probably wouldn't be tilted in the game like this, because you'd be running along it horizontally. The player needs to be able to traverse it. But yeah, I wanted to have the sky world have a lot of just junk and shit floating all in the sky. Like how did it get there? How would a tree get there? How would all these floating? How are all these islands floating, and all different kinds of architecture on them? And so you can see there's a lot of them in the distance, and so yeah, I just wanted to give an idea mostly for us, but yeah, I'm showing it to you guys just of what the world might, what one of the areas of the world at least might look like. So yeah, we got a couple more of these to show, so we'll do that. So this is a concept art of a potential character for the game. I did tons of character drawings for NPCs and enemies on paper, and this is probably the one that I liked the most. This wouldn't be the player character. This would probably be either an NPC or a boss, or maybe just an enemy. And I wanted to flesh it out a little bit more, just to yeah, get an idea for the style of the game. I really like debris a lot. As you can see, like in this area here, and this little little chunk behind his hand here and these little chunks here. I like stuff like that. So I think in the game, as part of the effects, we're going to try to have like little pieces, like you can even see it like on his hair up here and everything, like little pieces of characters kind of falling off, or rocks, even though it doesn't make any sense. Right, like if you hit somebody, for instance, like it would mostly be for impact effects, like hitting the ground or hitting another character. It doesn't make sense that a bunch of dust and rocks would fall off of the character, but I think it just looks cool.
Yeah.
And rather than have like either blood and gore, or we're probably still gonna have more standard effects, like flashy kind of just impact effects,
right,
I guess you
right.
would say, or slashing effects. We'll probably have something like that too, but I think having debris like this fly off is cool, which you can see a lot in our first game, Infernal Racket. That's the game. That's basically what the entire game is about. But this game will probably not have that much breaking and debris. But that's just a side note for this drawing. Yeah, this is it's just an idea for a potential character in the game. I did this one in colored pencil and marker just on paper, and we scanned this one in. I guess that's about all. Okay, so this last image, I think it really encapsulates my my vision for the visual aspect of the game the best. I think this is an image that I should probably be referring to as we develop the game, to kind of to remember kind of the original vision for the game, and be able to build off of that, and to try and keep things
focused, right?
Yeah, focused visually. And this is the kind of feeling that I want the player to have. Oh, yeah, this is the kind of feeling that this image might provoke, is the kind of feeling that I would want the player to feel. Like, my feeling with this is kind of a sense of curiosity and determination, maybe. I think that's probably how I would describe it. And I think that's with any art project, you kind of want to have a focused what's the word I'm looking for here? You want to have a focus, I guess. Just a couple of elements that you might want to focus on, or feelings that you want to evoke. And I guess feelings is probably the word I'm looking for. It's kind of what you're looking for when you're engaging in any kind of art form, like viewing, listening to, or playing any kind of art form.
You're trying to stir emotion. Is what you're doing, right?
So I think the emotions would probably be like curiosity, and maybe determination would be the emotion. So hopefully that comes through at least somewhat with this image here. So I wanted to show all the different areas of the game also in one drawing. So I'm not going to go through them, but you can kind of see the basic type of areas that we're going for. So she's standing on like one of the bottom area of the game, and then you can see some of the other ones here. And then the final area is the heart. So you can see you would imagine she's looking up at that heart up there, and that's the last area, and she really wants to get to that heart. And why? Well, we don't really know, and it will be explained in the story of the game. And as far as the story goes in the game, we originally came up with a shit ton of ideas, like an embarrassing number of ideas. I spent a really long time just hashing out crazy ideas for potential stories that we could put into the game. But I think Ed pointed out to me that he thought it would be a better idea for us to develop the gameplay first, and then kind of decide where the story goes from there. The gameplay and the visual aspect of the game, and decide and make up the story basically as we go, right?
Yeah.
And that might be a better approach. I know we're trying to plan ahead as much as possible, but if you lock yourself into a specific kind of story, then you're going to lock yourself visually and gameplay wise a lot of the time, if you really force yourself to stick to a specific kind of story that you develop early. And as you develop a game, you realize some things that you thought were going to work aren't going to work, and some things, and you'll come up with new things that you that will work better than the old ideas that you had. And if you lock yourself into one specific kind of story, it's just not going to work. So we wanted to we're gonna leave the story a little bit more open, this is not the final design for the main character at all, but I just made her green because it stood out from the background. I made the outfit green, and I mean, I don't need to get into too many details about why
I like the highlights in the hair.
Thanks.
Like on the edges. Yeah, I really, really like this. This concept art is fantastic. Like, I think you probably put more work into it than most people put into concept art. Like, this is, I don't know, this could be in the game somewhere. Like, hopefully we'll be able to have, like, an art gallery.
I mean,
we
we might put, like, an art gallery, include these concept arts that we've shown on this video, and maybe scan in some of the stuff that I did on paper. But, yeah, I really wanted to show just, a few of the concept arts that I've done so far for the game. We talked about the story.
More on that at some point, just not now.
So what's coming up?
Yeah.
So the next thing Ed and I are going to do is we're going to make... Actually, we're probably going to do this right after we stop recording this. We're going to make a list of all the tasks and the time that we think it's going to take to do those.
Planning.
Yeah, I guess you just call that a plan, right?
Yeah, but
it might be a technical term for it.
Can't stress enough how important it is, for real.
Yeah.
Like, overplan, please.
And... yeah, I mean, you make a wild guess about how long each task is going to take, but I think we're going to be able to at least make a list of all the tasks we need to do. Also, we have an idea of how many different areas we're going to have in the game, how many different enemies we're going to have in the game, bosses, etc. Things that can easily scope creep. Like, if we come up with another really cool idea for an area or an ability or a progression system that we want to add later, we have a little bit of wiggle room. For instance, with our enemy types, right? There's probably 4 or 5 different enemy types that are a shoo-in for the game, that are going to be scattered across the game. They're pretty basic enemy types, but in total, we don't want to have more than X number of enemy types, and we're not going to add more than that. But we do have wiggle room for, as we design the game and we decide we need a certain enemy to fit a certain design, that's when we're going to add that enemy type. And so we're not being too strict with it yet, but we are being strict with the amount of content that we're gonna create. Whereas we did not do that especially for Infernal Racket. Game Soup, we limited ourselves a bit better, but we still scope creeped. But with Infernal Racket, we just kept adding and adding and adding, and it wasn't. We pretty much entirely lost the original vision of what the game was supposed to be. It became something else. The thing that it became, I like, but it took way longer than it should have to make the game to make that game. And then what else is next? After we make that list of all the tasks that we have to do, we're going to do one more. We're going to do a little bit more of what we call. We had 3 rough phases: rough phase 1, rough phase 2. So we're basically at the end of rough phase 2, which was the longest one. The first one was mostly just typing out and writing out our ideas. The second one was where we actually made. We did more programming and more art for the game, more actual nuts and bolts, getting a little bit closer to the actual vision of the game, away from the thought concept writing stage of the game. And the third step is kind of just wrapping it all together. This next step is probably only going to take a couple of weeks tops, and in that time, I want to make some mock-up screenshots. That's probably the biggest task that I personally want to do, and Ed's probably going to work on some more, tightening up some more ideas that we have as far as the gameplay programming and stuff go. And then after that planning phase is done, we're going to start working finally on the vertical slice, which is going to be basically the tutorial for the game, where you're going to be introduced to all or most of the abilities in the game, different kind of mechanics that you're going to be seeing throughout the game, and one mini boss fight at the end, and some enemies along the way during that. And one tile set. We're using tiles. We're trying to use tile sets for the game, but we might we're going to have to draw a lot of original art for the areas and for backgrounds and stuff. So we're going to try to use tile sets where we can, but it's probably going to be a mix of tile sets and custom drawn artwork for each area, for each room in the game. But we'll get more into that as we get deeper into these devlogs. So I think that's it.
All right. Well, I mean, that was a very, very condensed look at what we've been doing, and hopefully you enjoyed it. This hardly represents all of the stuff that we've done. We put a crazy amount of hours into it, but I'm really loving how this is turning out. I wish, we could talk about this for hours probably and never run out of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, we were thinking about dividing this into 2 parts, but I think this will be fine to
Yeah.
leave this as 1 part as it is now.
Yeah.
I mean, we probably should have done the devlog a little bit earlier.
Well, I mean,
But-
yeah. No, I think this was a good time to do it, especially. And now that we have, like, the concept art done and we have, like, sort of a focus for it, you know, I think this is a really good, this was a good bird's eye view of most of the game. And, you know, certainly we'll have more to share.
Oh, another thing I wanted to mention, I think we should have mentioned it up top, but if you've been here for this whole episode up to this point, we would like to hear your critiques of the game and of anything really that we've shown so far. I mean, it's kind of hard to judge at this point, I guess, but if you see any missteps we might be taking, or if you see anything that you don't like, that you think is not going to work, or any kind of constructive criticism is greatly appreciated. You can say nice things about it too if you want. We appreciate those kind of comments too, but really constructive criticism, especially of the negative variety, would be greatly appreciated.
Be jerks, please. Really. It helps tremendously. I mean, constructive criticism helps tremendously. Not being a jerk, sorry.
Yeah.
Never mind. Forget I said it. No, yeah, we really appreciate it. Yeah, let us know what you think.
So thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.